Hi. This is a quick coaching analysis video for you. I know you're using a katana, and not a longsword, so I'll give some generic advice. So first, let's talk about your stance. Your knees aren't bent enough, which means that they aren't prepared for any explosive movement. Next, your shoulders are slumped forward, which has curved the spine. This means that your arms are disconnected from the spine and your core, which means that any strikes and parries you make are relying on the strength of your arms alone, and not your entire body. Because you didn't bend your knees beforehand, you have to bend them now, just before your attack, which means you're telegraphing. Now, look at your hands. They haven't even begun their attack, yet you are about to move forward. Also, in the future, try not to keep your hands so low. Because when they're this low, you need to use more muscles to first lift the sword, then point the sword, then thrust the sword. This slows your attack immensely, as well as makes it more tiring. Try aiming for the throat or the heart, not the belly. Because now, you've shortened your reach by aiming for a lower target, as well as created very weak structure. Look at your lead wrist, it's flexed downwards. This is a problem because it means your hand is disconnected from the structure of your arm. Which means that if someone were to parry this thrust, all of the force of that parry will transfer to your wrist, instead of your entire arm. In short, this is a very good way to get disarmed. Speaking of disconnected joints, your shoulder appears to be raised, here. Even if you fix your disconnected wrist, if someone parries you, you're going to be 100% open to a riposte. This is because when you try to recover your weapon after the parry, you'll be using only the strength of your arms, rather than your back to pull your weapon under control and into guard. This is both tiring and slow. Theoretically, you could compensate for this by having fast enough footwork to withdraw your entire body from your enemy's reach. But given how straight your legs are, that's not possible. Once you've landed a thrust, your priority should be to immediately enter a guard. The position you've chosen isn't very optimal, because your hands are entirely open, and you neither defend nor threaten a counterattack. In this position, you have put yourself in reactive state, because you don't protect any of your openings, and you can't make any attacks from there in a single tempo. I personally like to pull my hands back and into a high guard while moving backwards. This pulls the rest of my body out of reach, keeps my hands safe, and threatens strikes from above. Like this. But you're doing it too slow. Because you've wasted a tempo to raise your sword, and another to bend your knees so you can make a step backwards. Again, you've started a thrust with a step. This is problematic, not only because you're telegraphing more, but because by the time you thrust your sword, your legs are no longer delivering forward pressure into the target. This reduces your thrust power, because now all the force of the thrust is coming from your arms, and not your entire body. With this thrust, we can see that your foot lands at the same time as your thrust is at full extension, which means that half of your forward momentum is wasted by the time your thrust comes out. The rest of your momentum is wasted going outwards, instead of into your target, because you straighten your legs. Try practicing to extend your sword first, and build structure for your thrust, then step behind it. Here's an example. Notice how Red also moves his hands high to guard. You have very good hip rotation and powerful cuts. I would personally suggest cutting more forward, rather than downwards, so you can transmit more force onto your target. This transition from the ox guard into a rising cut could be polished. Here, you start in this ox-like hanging guard. Then, you pull the weapon down to deliver your strike. This is rather slow, and is a 3-tempo combination rather than 2. In the future, Try keeping your hands high while performing this cut. Just shove the pommel under your right forearm, and turn the hips. Also, stop looking down at the floor. I recommend doing more pull-ups to strengthen your back and shoulders. Also, do more footwork exercises. Check the comments for resources and exercises. Please also work on optimizing your movements to be more efficient. Hope this helps. Keep training.